Hey, what's up? I'm Matea Babcock, and I'm here today to show you some mounting tips on a green horse. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I am a horse development specialist, and I've been doing natural horsemanship since I was 13. Now I'm a professional horse trainer. My passion is taking horses from 6-month-olds all the way through to starting, which we're doing now, and then on to getting them prepared and getting a solid foundation so you can take them anywhere you want to go and have a dependable, solid horse. So that's what I love doing, and I love sharing it with you guys. So I'm going to share with you some mounting tips and how to be safe when you're doing this with a colt or a green horse. The number one way people get hurt with horses is with mounting. So it's very important that you do it correctly. Now, the first thing I want to make sure I have before I get on a colt is lateral flexion. I want to be able to slide my hand down that rein and tip their nose to my knee or to the stirrup. And he hasn't done a lot of this with the bridle. We've done a lot of it with the halter, so that's a little bit new for him. And you'll notice he has trouble with this in the video. And that's actually why I ended up not riding him this particular day, was because his lateral flexion wasn't good enough. When I get on a horse, I want to be able to know that I can bend them around. And I'm just going to wait. And there he came around, and I'll release. And he's licking his lips, he's learning. So you have to be pretty patient when you do this kind of thing. Take your time, because if you prep your horse correctly, you're setting your horse up for a lifetime of success by doing that and confidence. It doesn't serve your horse to freak him out when you're going through this process. It's all about building confidence, and go slow if you need to. So you always want to make sure that you do whatever you do on the right side, you do on the left side. You want your horse to be equally good on both sides and equally confident on both sides. The next thing after you have your lateral flexion is I make sure I can jump by my horse. As you saw in the last video, we already did a bunch of prep, jumping up to him and that type of stuff. But before I put my foot in that stirrup, I want to make sure I can raise my knee up and hop in place, and my horse isn't worried about that. And there he kind of braced on me when I went to do lateral flexion, so I moved his hip around. Anytime my horse pulls away from me when I'm doing lateral flexion or that type of thing, a great way to get rid of that brace is to disengage the hindquarters. And I only really use that in situations where there's a lot of opposition reflex, or they get really worried about it and they're not making progress and tipping their nose around. Then I'll move the hindquarters. So after they've got my lateral flexion, I got my hopping in place, they didn't spook, then I have the green light to go ahead, put my foot in the stirrup, and I have his head tipped around, so if he did take off, he'd still be in a circle, and that'd give me just enough time to get off. And since I'm laying over his back there, I'm going to rub him all over, move the stirrup, all that kind of stuff. In my mind, I'm going through what is anything that's going to spook my horse. Does he spook when, or get worried when I move the stirrup? When I touch his flank, does he get worried? When I touch his butt, does he get worried? These are all things I go through in my mind to make sure that he's comfortable with. Because if I do get on and he's worried about his butt being touched, you're going to have to worry about that when you're riding. And I'd rather work through that now than find out later when I'm on that he's worried about something like that. So I'm just going through the same process on this side. Tip his nose around. I make sure that I'm always holding on to the mane when I do this. That's very, very important. I can tip the stirrup around to me and put my foot in. That way my hand's always on the mane and rein. And when you hop down, always make sure you have both feet out of the stirrups. That is so important. If you don't want to get hung up in a stirrup, don't leave your foot in there and hop down, especially on a colt. And I'm always keeping an eye on his expression, his ears, his eye. Is he blinking? All that kind of stuff. I'm paying attention and reading my horse to tell me whether I have the green light or not. Is he comfortable with this? Is he ready for the next step? And he did okay there. He's tipping his nose around pretty well. So far I've had all green lights, so I'm going to practice swinging my leg up and over. And as you notice, he got worried when I put my leg on the other side. So I got off, and I'm going to keep jumping until I'm going to make it more work and more stimulus if I'm on the ground. And he moved until he flexes his head around. Because what happened there was I got on and I lost my lateral flexion. He braced against me. So I put pressure until he released on that rein. And here I was able to put my leg over while keeping that softness. That's very, very important. Because if he's pulling against or bracing against that rein, I know he's not comfortable. He's not relaxed. The more relaxed and understanding you can have your horse of this process, the better it's going to go for you. I did not end up riding him this particular day just because of that brace he had on the rein when I put a leg over him. And this was probably the best thing for him because I'm building his confidence. He told me that was all he could mentally do that day, so I went with it. I'm not going to push my horse past his limit.